Hello, it's Karen. Randy wanted some breakfast for supper tonight, so we're going to have a leftover steak that I made last night with eggs and hash browns, and I just got out of bed. I've been laying in bed a little bit this morning, and I had a little spurt of energy, so I decided that I would go ahead and mix up some biscuits real quick. And I was like, well, why not go ahead and videotape it, and let's see how this goes. I've got an illness going on. As you all know, or most of you know, I've been on chemo for almost 3.5 years, but the good news, 2 months ago I took my last chemo treatment, but I'm still under observation. Well, unfortunately, after my chemo treatment, I started getting severe pain in my back and down my legs, and so now I'm dealing with that. So you just have to hang in there with me. Some days I can walk a little bit without pain, other days it's excruciating. No big deal though, I'm alive, I'm not on a ventilator or anything like that, so that's the good news. So let's start, forget about me and let's go to the biscuits. I started out with, I'm going to do a half a stick of cold real butter on these biscuits. So I'm going to take my shaver and I'm going to shave this whole half a stick of butter, just like this. I want the whole stick, real butter, please. And, you know, some people use shortening, that's okay, depends on just what type of biscuit you want to make. A lot of the cooks use self-rising. I'm thinking the wrong with it. I've used it myself. This particular recipe is all-purpose flour, so here we go. We're going to add our own leavening or our own baking powder to make it rise. I've got that done. And squish that up there to get that butter out of there. We don't want to leave any of that good stuff behind. Just like this. I've got butter all over my hands, so just give me a second. Boy, I tell ya, me and live, you never know what's going to happen. Like I said, just hang in there with me. I'm doing my very best. I'm trying to just live life and not let all my ailments get in the way of it. I don't think God would like me to do that. Here's my butter. Now I'm going to stick this in the freezer while we do the second part of the biscuits, because I want my butter to stay as cold as possible. I don't want it to get warm. So a half a stick of butter. This is, now I'm making a small batch, okay, but you all will get the ideal. And once you play with it and figure it out, you can make a bigger batch if you want. You will catch on. Like I said, we're going to have buttery biscuits tonight, so I'm going to stick this in the freezer. So hold on just a second. Oh, all right. Thank you for hanging in there with me. I'm going to start out with a big bowl. I don't have the big flour bowl or any of that stuff. And I'm going to use baking powder. And I'm also going to use a little, and I mean not much, baking soda. They both do the same job, except baking soda tends to brown stuff better. So I'm going to use a little bit of that, and I'm going to use some baking powder. I'm also going to put table salt. Isn't that easy? And some flour and some milk and our butter. That's it on biscuits. I've got about 2 cups of flour. I know, but you all are into this measuring stuff, or the younger ones are. But you know what? You got to learn like us. Sometimes you just got to play with it and throw out the flops and be happy when it turns out. So we're going to do 2 cups of flour, and I did not sift that. As you all know, I sift a lot of my flour. On biscuits, it's really not necessary. You don't have to. Okay, I'm going to do, I know this is going to sound like an incredible lot, but believe me, it's not. I'm going to do about a tablespoon. I'm going to make it completely even. About a tablespoon of baking powder. There it goes. My salt, because like I said, this is not self-rising. Self-rising has all this in there. And it makes good. I mean, all the other cooks use it, but man, my mom didn't use it all the time. This is kind of how I was brought up. And I'm going to use about 3/4 of salt. And then on the baking soda, because I don't want the baking soda taste, I just want it for the browning agent, okay? So I'm going to use 1/4 teaspoon, just a quarter, of baking soda. Baking soda also is a browning agent. It also, like on cookies and stuff like that, that's where you get that little rise and they flatten out and get brown, is your baking soda. I'm going to use that in there too. So at this point, I'm going to mix it very well. Can you see that? I'm just mixing our stuff together. And I also have going on here, I got me some gold out of the refrigerator, and I got a little bit of gold in here. And I'm going to melt this gold around this pan that I use constantly. You know this is my best friend. So I'm going to melt this on the bottom of my pan, and the biscuits are going to go into this. So we've got our gold, which is baking fat, of course, in our iron skillet melting. Got my oven turned up to 400. I cook my biscuits a little high. Like I had told you before, I always thought everything you ever put in the oven just went to 325 and that was it. Well, I've learned different over the years, okay? All right, in the center of this, I'm making a little hole. Right in the center of this flour, a little nest egg as they call it on the cooking channel. But I'm just making a little hole in my flour. Now, I'm going to tell you something right now. I should have had my apron on because flour and I don't get along. So I'll probably have it all over me before this is over. If I forget it's on my hands, and I'll go like this and have it everywhere. All over it. Look, right now. Prime example. Flour hates my guts, I believe. Anyway, I didn't put it on, so just hang in there with me. I'll just take my little napkin and do that. How's that? All right, I've got my milk out. I'm going to use 2% whole milk. I don't care what you use. Now, measuring milk for biscuits totally depends on the batch you're making and how many you're making. It's more about feel, and that comes with experience. So try my recipe. Play with it, all right? You'll get the hang of it. So I can't really tell you how much I'm going to use. I'm just going to use until I have enough, and that's when I'm going to stop. You can also use buttermilk. Some people like buttermilk. You don't have buttermilk, pour some milk in a cup and add a few little drops of vinegar. You basically are going to have your buttermilk, but I'm not. We're just going to use plain old milk today. See how that turns out. Excuse me, that's bugging me. All right, I'm not doing, I know that looks a little weird, but I'm not being weird, although I can be weird at times. I'll tell you, when I was on chemo, I had chemo brain so bad, I thought that for sure I was going to have to go to a nursing home. I couldn't remember nothing. Nothing. No matter where I put it, I forgot it within 30 seconds. But it was called chemo brain. So I got an excuse. Now I don't have an excuse because I'm not on chemo. All right, be right back. I'm getting that butter that I've got in the freezer because I didn't want it to get cold. The key is keeping your shortening, whether it's shortening or oil or whatever, kind of chilled. You want things chill. It works better in any pastries or biscuits. Be right back. Okay, got my butter back, and like I said, that is a half a stick that I'm using because I'm making a small batch. We don't need a great big bunch of biscuits around here, just for 2 people. See how that is? How that's coming out? That's how you want it. So once you do your butter, stick it right back in there in the freezer. Now, if I wasn't videotaping this, I'll be honest with you, I would go ahead and put this all right back in the freezer and get my flour nice and cold too, but I'm not going to do that today. We're going to just hope for the best. Okay, I'm going to incorporate very little because I don't want my butter to get soft. The butter, I'm going to incorporate in the flour, okay? And I'm going to go ahead, I poured the butter into that little nest, and now I'm incorporating it all over. I'm going to go ahead and make me another little hole or nest, whatever you want to call it, I don't care. You're going to get your hands messy, so what I'm going to do is have my paper towel nice and close to me. This is now where the tricky part comes in. We're going to add cold milk. I'm going to start out with, well, you know what? Let's do this, kids. This is 2 cups of flour that I'm using today and a half a stick of butter. So let's start out. I'm just going to pour about a half a cup in here. Let's start out with about a half a cup of milk. I'm going to pour it in that little hole. I'm not even going to pour it all. Well, yeah, I will pour it all, but I think you'll be fine. And then I'm going to take my hands and I'm just going to work the flour, just in to my mixture with my hands. You're going, why your hands? Well, because I can tell this consistency that I need by these hands that God gave me. You know, feel. I don't want my biscuit. I don't want it beat to death or folded into death or kneaded to death. I do not want that. And you know what? I've just about got the consistency of what I want in this biscuit. I'll show you here in just a minute. I might add, I'm going to use a measuring cup, maybe just a dot, almost a quarter, not quite, just a little. And I'm going to go ahead and squish that in there. It's just a little bit more of that flour worked out. Just like this. I'm just getting to the perfect consistency. The only way you're going to learn to do this is do it. I've thrown flops away, believe me. I don't tell people about them, but I've pitched them. Alright, my biscuit is just about at the point I want it. And see all this? I'm just going to go like this. Like I said, this will never hurt you. And you know, flour and liquids, it turns into gluten. You got that sticky stuff going on here. I'm going to move this over for the next step. Oh my, I'm going to wash my hands off just a dab. Get it off so I can work my biscuits in. Wash them just so I can get started getting them dirty again. How's that? Keep some paper towels around close because you're going to use them. I got my gold melting in my iron skillet. See, it's melted. We're going to put the biscuits in that. If you don't have one, go get one. I don't care if you get it at a flea market or someone's old barn or whatever. Even if they're a little nasty looking, you can clean them up good. Unless they've rusted where it's just got a complete hole in it. You can pretty much clean them up. But go get you one. Get at least an 8-inch one. Everybody needs an iron skillet. I've got me some wax paper over here. Get all my stuff over this direction. Right here. Got my flour here. Boy, I'm going to regret not having an apron on. I'm going to sprinkle a little flour on the board here. This is to keep my biscuit dough that I'm going to plop on here from sticking. And get my hands nice and fluffy again. Trying to get all of it around the sides is what I'm doing here. Alright, let me see if I can get that out. There it is. Okay, on my biscuit, I'm not going to need it much more than this, okay? That's it. Can you see that? That's our biscuit dough. Now what I do is take your flour and kind of make a nice little, make it into like a little bit of a ball. Put your flour, if you need more, go over there and get you some. And I'm going to show you how I do this, okay? I usually end up looking like Casper, the friendly ghost, when I play with flour. I don't know what it is about me and flour. I take, this is how I do it. You can do it with your hands if you want, but I feel like the least I do with my hands, because your hands are warm, I keep it cool. So we're going to get the handy dandy rolling pin out. Just take that, just put a little bit of flour on there. I'm going to turn this off. And I'm going to just really gently roll my biscuit out. Put my wax paper back over here. I'm not gonna, and I don't want it too thin, okay? Just roll it out very gently. Turn this around. Same way. Really gently. Just like this. That's about the thickness I want that. About an inch, a good inch. And like I said, this is not going to make a lot because I didn't want a lot. I'm just kind of making it pretty on the ends, rounding it out a little bit. And that's going to make just enough for us for tonight. And I grabbed the old handy dandy. They're not going to be round, but they're going to be good enough for me, glass. They're going to be kind of square, but that's okay. I'm going to put a little bit of flour around that. Let me get my flour over here. Just dip it in there. Oh, by the way, I was going to tell you all that's watching. Go pick up a couple bags of flour and put it in your freezer because we watch the Farmer's Report. And they're saying that wheat is going to be expensive. So flour is wheat. So go get you some flour. Put it in the freezer. It does good in the freezer. Have some on hand because, you know, baking season's coming up. And it's supposed to get high according to the Farmer Report, okay? And so go grab you a couple sacks of it. I did. Because cooking season's coming up. Thanksgiving's going to be here before you know it. Christmas. And who knows how much it'll be. So just go ahead and pick it up. Put it in your freezer. It freezes. Awesome. Okay? Got my cup. And I'm going to go right around here. And you might have to help it out. See my biscuit? See that? Stick it in the flour. Let's do another one. Stick it in the flour. Let's do another one. It's not going to make many because I didn't want a lot, okay? Stick it in the flour. We're going to do another one here. Just like that. And then I got a little here, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and incorporate what I got left. Trying not to need it that much. Getting it together. We'll make another one. Might not be as pretty as the other ones, but they'll taste the same. Make it round like I did. And we are going to do another biscuit. Now I'm going to have this little tiny one left. What usually ends up happening though when I do this extra tiny one, it gets done before the other ones. That's okay. Iris loves biscuits tore up with some bacon grease on it, so if it don't turn out, she gets it. That one's going to probably cook a little faster than the other ones. Turn that around here like that. We're going to get my placemat out, my pan, and all we're going to do is we're going to take your biscuit on one side and then we're going to turn it on the other side. You want liquid gold on both sides. Do not put your biscuits like side by side. Leave a little open gap if possible. I'll try to show you when I get done what I mean here, okay? And we're going to put old big boy, that might not turn out to be very good, right in the center here. Didn't get quite as much as the grease, so I'm going to steal some from this one. All right, let me show you. I'm rolling my flour up in my wax paper, just like this. Very easy to discard of. Alright, so this is how I want it to look when you do that. Please, I want you to leave a little open gap So these can expand good and get a good airflow, and it cooks the entire biscuit the same. So my outcome is that these are going to have a nice crusty bottom on them. So you're going to have a crunch at the top, you're going to have a crunch in the middle, and you're going to have tender, or excuse me, a crunch on the top, a crunch on the bottom, and it's going to be tender in the middle. That's my goal, all right? So I don't go by a recipe, and every time I do these, I think, okay, I hope they turn out. So there they are, guys. So I'm going to stick these in the oven, and you're going to cook them on 400. In about 20 minutes, start checking, okay? So once they get nice and golden brown on top, remember, brown's delicious, black is terrible. So I'm talking a nice golden brown. Take them out. And then I take them out of the iron skillet immediately because they will continue cooking. So take them out immediately and put them on a pie plate or whatever you want to do, all right? So I hope these turned out, and like I said, I hope you guys enjoyed this quick little presentation. And yes, I've got flour all over me. I knew that would happen. And thank you for hanging in there and being so understanding. Like I said, I had a moment, and I hope it turns out good. Thank you so much. Have a blessed day.